Welcome, everyone, to today's edition of Beyond the Ordinary Show. And today we're going to be talking about healing the four etheric bodies with Kaite Sutton. And Kaite Sutton is a best-selling author, intuitive channel, vibrational healer, and energy medicine teacher. And y'all know that I like having my personal experiences with whoever comes on BTO. And I just have to share when Kaite came on, it's like this, she's this hidden gem that people know about, but I feel like a way lot other people could really benefit from knowing about what she brings in. My session with her was profound. It felt like a catalyst for me in 2024 of things that I was tying up to move forward into the energies of 2025. And I just know that what she holds, the wisdom, the way that she translates it and transmits for us to receive, to really empower us on our journeys of this expansion that we're all stretching into, is quite powerful. So on BTO, I like to pride myself in hosting the best of those who are really carrying with integrity and embodiment that which they see for others within themselves. And it's with that I'm so excited to introduce you to the BTO community today, Kaite. Thank you for being on here.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
So I want to get into a little bit of your background first before we get into healing the four etheric bodies and what those bodies are, why we need to heal them, and what's on the other side of them. Tell us more a little bit about your work. How do you come by this information, and what are you doing as you've accumulated this to help the people that are in your community really benefit and again stretch and expand and activate a higher potential
Mm.
that's here, that's accessible, especially if we have frameworks and the willingness to step into and utilize this information to help that ascendery cycle.
Yeah, I started in the corporate space and thought I was going to be CEO of a technology company. That's how I started out in this.
Wow.
And got very ill very quickly when I went into corporate America, realized how empathic I was, and started studying at a psychic school just to heal myself because I had all kinds of chronic illnesses. And as I started studying how to take care of me, I started realizing how prevalent what I was going through was happening in our society and how many people needed to know what I had been working through myself in their own process so that they could start to heal themselves. And I'm really about empowering people to connect with the truth of who they are and kind of working through the layers of programming that we've been given, either from society or from our parents, that keep us maybe dimming our light or not believing in ourselves or maybe not able to reach our full potential. And so when I started working with people, it was 2012 is when I started doing sessions. And I think I've done something like several thousand now over the last 13 years or so. And what I have come to realize is that underneath everything else, if I can help people come back to loving all of the parts of themselves and kind of getting grounded in the truth of who they are and their authentic expression, so that that can be seen in the world, that's the biggest medicine that I can bring. And since I can't change things at the top of the house of our society, I'm working from the bottom up to empower as many people as possible to step into their truth. And a big part of that for me is channeling and connecting with the higher realms. But I always try to bring it through the human lens because I think sometimes channeled information can get really obtuse because the vibration is so high and so otherworldly. And it is also beyond our kind of human comprehension sometimes. So when I'm channeling, I try to always bring in afterwards my kind of human experience. And I am an experiential learner. So I go through the downloads physically and emotionally and energetically on all parts of my being, and they come in that way. And then I bring that information forward after I've experienced it in my life.
Beautiful. And I love that you brought in that part of the intuitive channel and being a direct experiencer. I can certainly relate to that. And all my charts seem to point out to that: experience first and then share, experience first and then share. And again, the embodiment part of that for me is so important
Mhm.
because it teaches empathy and compassion in ways that is relatable, and we get to hold each other in the activation of the potentiality because we know what's possible. So again, before we get into etheric bodies, there's a couple of labels that you use here for you. And for some reason, I'm really guided to ask you because your interpretation of it and how it translates to those listening live and on the replay, I feel is really important. What does it mean for you to be a vibrational healer and an
Mhm.
energy medicine teacher?
Okay. So when I started out teaching workshops and kind of bringing through information as a channel, it concurred with beginning to be a sound healer. And so I've been doing sound healing for 11 years now. My partner and I do sound healing journeys and activations with about 35 to 40 instruments. And a
Wow.
couple of years into that, I also started channeling light language, and I have some guides that are Native American in origin. And so my light language kind of takes on that tone. And so sometimes when I'm working with people in the healing space, it's sound, and sometimes it's a direct transmission of information. And so to me, it's all vibration, but it just depends on the container that the person is ready for in terms of the session that I'm in and what they're ready to receive. Sometimes they need things for their head and understanding it in English and channeled information and insights. And sometimes they need the pure vibration. And I am very, very empathic and clairsentient and clairaudient. And so when I'm getting information, it's coming in layers of vibration. And so as I'm sharing that information, wherever or however it's coming through, there is a vibrational quality to it that is activating a frequency inside of the person that I'm speaking to or the group of people that I'm speaking to.
Beautiful.
And
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, please. Yeah.
Yeah, and the energy medicine piece, that just is the simplest way that I know how to explain what I'm teaching people, because I really want them to understand that they need to have good energetic hygiene, and that their frequency field and how they're taking care of that frequency field is the thing that they have the most power over. And it was a game changer for me to realize how sensitive I was, and then to begin to see that empathy and that sensitivity as a superpower. And
Mm.
so in my energy medicine courses and my different courses that I teach, there's always a practical application of how to work with their energy field and their energy body.
Well, and you're bringing this up, and it's one of the bullet points that we were going to address. So let's address that question before we get to etheric bodies, because we are talking about empathy
Mm,
and a recognition. And for me, it feels like we go through different stages of recognizing our empathic capacities. And some of them can be really tender. It's like, I don't know if I want to feel that much, but others feel quite empowered
mm.
with a different awareness. How do you work with balancing empathy, especially when there's a lot of rocking back and forth with, I'll call it different realities that present themselves simultaneously?
Yeah, I think when I started out learning about empathy, I saw it kind of like a curse.
Yeah,
Because I
love those.
realized yeah, I realized that so much of my dis-ease process in my body and my chronic health conditions were because I wasn't tapping into and feeling my feelings and working through the things that were getting triggered. And I was pretty much just a big sponge walking around taking on everybody's stuff. That was my conditioning from childhood that I took on. And so over the years, it's looked more like, oh, actually, that deeply sensitive and empathic and kind and compassionate and pure little girl inside of me that is so sensitive has so much love and joy and excitement and passion to bring into the world. And I have to do a really good job protecting her and taking care of her as her adult parent, if you will. And so for me, it's been a journey over the last, I'd say, 10 years of learning how to reparent the very empathic, sensitive child who maybe didn't get everything that she needed because my parents didn't know how sensitive I was, and they were raised differently as well, not being in that sensitivity. And so over the years, as I have learned to parent that little girl inside of me, I have learned that there is a level of connection that I can get to in myself and with other people where I can see parts of them that are so vulnerable and so special that just really need love. And so my empathy is the bridge to get me to be able to hear and see all of those unspoken parts of them, and really hold that container of unconditional love that they need, that maybe nobody has ever held for them.
Beautiful. Do you mind if we go deeper into this empathy conversation? I know we're going to talk about the etheric bodies, but I find this it's sparking something in the field, and it's sparking something from an earlier conversation that we had a few minutes ago. For me, I find that through that sensitivity. again, when I was growing up as a child and even into adulthood, that empathy, because I wasn't quite clear what was mine and what was others, and that energy, that sometimes those of us that are extremely empathic seem to attract narcissists or narcissistic behavior or people in our lives that keep telling us that what we're feeling is wrong, that there's something wrong with us because we're picking up on something that can't be possible because we're pointing to something that may not even be conscious within them, but we know it is truth, but it's being demonstrated to us that wait, there's something wrong with us. We're too sensitive. We need to tone it down. What are you talking about? There's just something wrong with you. Get like muster it up. It's like whatever it is, and that empathy becomes confusing for a while because we're playing this dynamic, if you will, of I'm sure a soul who's teaching us how to own that empathic ability, but at the same time, God, wouldn't it be wonderful to have the nurturance of someone who would support the acknowledgement and validation of what we're really feeling rather than have to be triggered by something that's just putting us in a state of chaos that then affects and ripples across various other aspects of our lives.
Yeah, I see narcissism and empathy as two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
And what I witnessed in myself, as I've kind of worked with those energies, because in the corporate space, I definitely had my fair share of experiences as an adult with that as well as when I
Mm,
was a child. And what I witnessed is that when I saw my empathy through the lens that the narcissist gave back to me, which is that disempowered place of you're too sensitive or don't cry or I'll give you something to cry about, that kind of energy, then
mm,
I was kind of in that place of learning the soul lesson and feeling the pain of the shame and the guilt and the unworthiness that the narcissists themselves were not able to feel. And
mm,
oftentimes, I mean, I do deep work with a lot of people on this particular wound, and they've been in relationship after relationship with that kind of energy. And what I often witness, just like you said, is that that energy is inviting them to claim their power. And
mm,
it starts as an inner choice and an inner realization of who they really are, and that that sensitive part is a superpower. And as they claim that, they then start to have a conversation with that narcissist that's very different, and the boundaries begin to be set. But there is so much healing that has to take place on the shame and guilt that they have internalized that was actually projected from the narcissist onto them,
mm,
because it's a void of empathy. And so the narcissist makes themselves so big and takes up so much space and pushes their shame and guilt down the line onto other people through abusive energy, because they don't have the toolkit or the self-love to be able to process that internally. And then in turn the empath takes that on and internalizes it, and it disempowers them until it doesn't. And the
mm,
moment that they make that decision that they're no longer going to align with that disempowered energy, pretty much nothing can stop them. They become amazing humans in the world that can do anything they want to do.
mm. That was my experience. The second something triggered in me as an adult that I caught the behavior, I caught the narcissist calling something out. And the narcissist took different people took on that role in my life because it was definitely something for me to recognize and learn and finally take back my power in.
Mhm.
Not that I had to fight it, but I had to claim it back, right? So I took on different roles from a marriage partner to parents to corporate world. And it's just, it navigated because there it was for me. But the second I claimed it and it was sudden, it's like all of a sudden something clicks like, oh, wait, I've been shutting down like my superpower. It hit me. I've been shutting down like one of the greatest gifts that I have to try to accommodate other people. It's like not happening again. And from there, everything shifted. So it's remarkable what can come up when we claim that space back and we claim our capacities and our empathy back. What I would call stage two of empathy, the claiming part rather than the being so affected and denying it. Right. Um, Amazing. I
Yeah,
love that we're having this conversation.
it starts with validating those parts that have been hurt, right? Because what I often see is people try to get to the claiming of the empowerment because they're told everything that we're talking about and they want it so badly. And I always try to take them one step back first, which is to love those parts that have been harmed and been told all of these things that they are not, right? Over the years. And as we bring in that love and that validation for those parts and we surround them with that love, then they start to trust us enough where we can begin to expand into that choice point of saying, okay, now I feel empowered enough to own it. And it is like a flip of a coin. And I believe that we're all dealing with this energy because I see that it's rampant in all of our systems and structures of, that have been created on this planet that are kind of keeping us disempowered. And I really feel like we're all kind of working through this energy to some degree.
Mm,
Even if we don't consider ourselves an empath, I still feel like we're all navigating this energy all the time because it's just kind of ingrained in our systems.
absolutely. I think everybody's empathic. There's just different levels of it, and some people recognize it and some don't, but it exists um, in everybody. We're humans, so it's wonderful. So all this leading up to healing the four etheric bodies. And so what are the four etheric bodies, and tell us how you're guiding us into the possibility of the awareness of what has to heal within every aspect to come back into, I would say, the wholeness that's available.
Sure. And before I even describe the bodies, I'll tell you why this is an important teaching that I bring through a lot and why I find it so helpful for people. When I start work with somebody for the first time, I often see that when they're in a traumatized state, which I feel like we kind of all are navigating some of that right now with so much changing in the world. They're ungrounded, maybe they're disconnected from their physical body, which is one of the etheric bodies, and they come in and they're kind of scattered, right? They're four aspects of self: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual or energetic are kind of scattered at different frequency levels at different points. Maybe they're in different timelines. They kind of come in and everything's discombobulated. And so, one of the first things that I do when I start doing energy work with people is to start to ground those bodies separately and bring them all into present time and all into a sense of safety and connection with earth and source. And
Mm,
so we do that through opening the center channel and grounding and clearing each of them, and then we can get into the nuance of, okay, well, how connected am I to my emotions? Well, that's my connection to my emotional body. How connected am I to my physical body? Do I spend a lot of time outside of my physical body, or am I really present and alive and vital in my physical body? And so then we can start to go through and see what programs are playing on each of those levels and start to learn about how to connect with each of those etheric bodies and heal them individually. And then as we do that, there's kind of a coming together. I kind of call it the cosmic tuning fork moment,
mm,
where as we get all of them onto the same page and the same frequency, there's a unification that begins to happen in a being. And as they step into that kind of more unity consciousness frequency and that unified state of being and wholeness, they then begin to be able to open up to the downloads and the insights and the visions and the gifts and all of the things that they want. But oftentimes on our spiritual process, especially when we're first awakening, it's so overwhelming to the system, to the nervous system, to the emotional body, to our mental body, and like remembering things and seeing things through different eyes that we've never seen before, that it just does create this scattering effect. And so we have to kind of work with them individually and get them healed up into present time and then bring them all back together so that we can then move forward and integrate all those amazing things that are coming in our awakening process.
beautiful. So how do we get to healing the different aspects of it? And do they require different levels of healing based on each body?
Yes, there's a general process of connecting to each of them. And in the course that I teach, there's different aspects and practices for connecting with the physical body versus the emotional body. In
Mm,
the emotional body, we might do things like shadow work or work more in the subconscious level, or even just start to understand the emotional frequency range that we're experiencing. Because a lot of people will say, oh, I don't have any shame. And when I start working on their emotional body, I see a lot of shame because
mm,
we're all carrying it, but it's such a dense frequency that we don't want to activate into it. And so we have some hidden things that we need to bring to the surface, and there's practices for that. And then once we bring them to the surface, we then have to understand what programs are activated and maybe understand a little bit about where they're coming from. Is there an ancestral component? Is there a past life component? Perhaps is this coming from societal programming or a truth that we've told ourselves or somebody else has told ourselves that we have made our truth? And so we kind of start to navigate through all these different layers. And there's some commonality in kind of the grounding and the energetics of each of those bodies, but the practices can be very different and the teachings can be very different as well.
Wonderful. So let's go through the etheric bodies. We have the physical, the mental, the energetic, and the
Emotional.
emotional body.
Mhm.
So if we start with the physical body, and we should probably go just through the special offer because this is all related. Y'all click on the special offer link. Chris or April will type it into the chat box. This is all going to be included as part of the dialogue that we're going to get into. And we're getting into Q&A in a little bit also. So if you have questions or if you want to line up for questions, raise your hand and I'll promote you all to panelists in a little bit. But we'll take questions into the chat box. But I think this is so important to break it down because really if we can put it in these boxes, they're digestible and it becomes so empowering rather than I hope I can fix this, but let me go here. And it's kind of like shooting in the dark. And if you really have a system that kind of stair steps into what's possible, really the ignition that can take place, I want to call it, um, becomes that much more easeful. So it's super important. Again, y'all click on the link in the chat box. You can open up, you can click on the special offer button on the video page where you're watching live. You can always go to our marketplace, beyondtheordinaryshow.com/marketplace, find Katie's picture on there and click special offer. And if you're watching the replay on the YouTube channel, go to the comments section and you'll find the link for the special offer there as well. So the physical body, let's start what healing on the physical body means in the way that you're providing the technology for the healing to take place through the four bodies.
Yeah, so one of the first things that I talk about with the physical body is the fact that we carry a body consciousness in our root chakra. And so most people are never in their root chakras.
Mhm.
When I start looking at people's energy bodies, we just don't spend a lot of time in our root because our survival fears exist there. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you think about it, our body consciousness exists there in the root. And so, one of the teachings is to bring through a connection to that body consciousness and actually take them into an energetic control room where we start to look at different things like the nervous system and the digestive system and the circulatory system. And we start to look at how the body is functioning and literally begin to bring some consciousness to the instructions that we're giving the body because a lot of our body processes are very unconscious. Obviously, they're just happening. But when we have chronic dis-ease, there's a level of unconscious energy that's operating in our body consciousness that we then need to begin to look at and start to open up and say, okay, maybe there's a emotional reason why I have an autoimmune condition. Maybe I have been rejecting my body because of some conditioning that I got as a child about what my body looked like, for example. And so we start to kind of break down the different programs that are running in that physical body level. And as we do the activations, we begin to get connected with that body consciousness. And there's a frequency field that begins to open up where, because the body is a masculine dynamic. So we've got four etheric bodies, two of them are feminine and two of them are masculine. And because the physical body is a masculine element, and I love all these men out there, but we speak in zeros and ones when we're speaking with the masculine,
Yeah.
very black and white, right? Not as nuanced, not as gray. And so oftentimes what I find when I'm working with people's physical bodies is that they haven't actually given it the instruction that it can be healthy. So they're maybe battling something or working through a disease process, and they've got a belief that they're fighting against something that is harming the body. And in that battle energy, they're giving the body the conditioning that it has something to be ashamed of or that it's functioning poorly. And so, what we want to start to do, just like with every other teaching that I bring through, is validate first, right? We validate and bring love to the body wherever it's at. We have to first learn how to fully accept where we are. And as we accept where we are, we begin to start to open up the possibility to come into a new state of being, a new state of healing, especially in the body, because because in our medical system, our traditional medical system, and even in the alternative system, there's a lot of programming about giving our power away of our body, right? That we need to have somebody else tell us what we need to do with our body. And so that's also part of it when we're bringing consciousness to this body consciousness energy in the root chakra. We're saying, hey, I want to be in a body. I love being in a body. I am appreciative of this body and I want to take good care of it. And oftentimes in that root chakra, we also have a lot of programs around nourishment and care that we inherited from our parents. You know, maybe we saw them unhealthy in their body, or we saw something in our ancestral line where there was a chronic disease pattern, and we've got some conditioned responses that we're actually living by, and I call those energetic vows in our field. And so we also do some work on deprogramming some of those as well, because I believe that regardless of what genetics we were given, we have choice and we can
Mhm.
activate that choice even at the physical level.
Beautiful. So a lot of us in community here on Beyond the Ordinary, it's okay. I understand that if my right knee is hurting, it's got a particular component of this. Maybe I'm afraid to move forward in this. I got it from my mom because they got stuck or ancestral things. And I've been working on healing all these other things, but the pain won't go away. Or I've done everything else. What makes this different, Katie? What is it in the relational aspect and what you're bringing through that adds to that wisdom and provides a gateway for something to switch or change?
It's taking it beyond the mind. So all of the things that you just described are knowings that are existing up here.
Mm,
And when we're working with body consciousness at the root chakra level, it's much more basic than that. We have to kind of pull out of so we need to understand the stories and where it comes from. And then we almost need to just completely release that so
mm.
that we can come into a place of openness so that we can start to begin to heal at a deeper level. And, you know, I just have this way when I'm working with people's bodies of seeing the unseen layer. You know, they have a belief that it's one thing, and I tend to see that there's a past life and there's an ancestral component and there's an energetic vow. So there's, 25 different layers to it. So sometimes it's not a matter of, just knowing what we already know out of the gate from our reading. I love Louise Hay and some of those different teachers, but it's also going into all of the different dimensions at once and healing at that level of that multidimensionality so that we can kind of tick off all of those boxes of all of the reasons why we might have that knee pain. But
Mm.
before we even try to heal it, we have to be okay with where we are and validate the body. And that's the piece that I always witness people skipping over.
That's beautiful. And what's coming to me also, and I'm seeing the picture, is like, I can't tell you how many times I've had a map to get somewhere and I still got lost. Right? It's like, it's well intended, but I'm not reading it and I'm turning left when it's supposed to be turned right, but the map's turned this way and it's doing this other thing. And so, again, the attunement that you provide and your capacity to vision in that way I was so impressed with in my session, and the way that we guided and there is an articulation that when you're in a vibrational field that gets held at another octave because the one who's guiding you has the capacity to do that, to
Mhm.
illuminate a trajectory and a deeper surrendering into that. There are huge breakthroughs that take place. So I love that this is coming up this way. I appreciate you talking first about healing the physical body. Then we go into healing the mental body. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so the mental body is the other aspect of the masculine component of our being. And so here we have a lot of fun because we get to play with all of the stories and
Mm,
all of the tales that we've been telling ourselves for lots of lifetimes. And so we start working in the third eye and the crown chakras. And in the mental body aspects, we really start to ask the participant that's coming through the teaching or coming to the teachings to begin to look at where they are creating a reality based in a belief that they've held that they are almost unconscious to. And
Mm,
so again, we start with validating where we are and we bring some consciousness forward. And that's a frequency field that opens up. And as they do that and they start to kind of go through the questions that I offer and some of the exercises that I offer, there is an awareness that starts to come forward. And it's kind of a magical process because there's the teaching and then there's the integration of the teaching. And what I find is that the way that my guides work with people when they come into a course with me is they start activating things for them in their dream space or in their relationships where they get that immediate mirror that they need so that they can get the insight. And I have this natural ability to be a pattern recognizer. So I call myself like an energetic detective.
mm,
So I see energetic patterns throughout a person's life and I can see those stories really clearly. So in the way that I teach it, they start to kind of become their own energetic detective in their mental bodies and start to look at those stories. And we bring in some neutrality energy so that they're not so triggered in their nervous system, right? Because when the nervous system in that physical body gets triggered, then it activates the mental body, and then the mental body starts going further down those hypervigilant paths. So there is a connect point between those two bodies that we also work on. And so as we start to calm the nervous system in the physical body, then the mental body can start to slow down and we can start to realize, okay, I'm in a hypervigilant story. Where can I pull out of the fear? Where have I been programmed to be in the fear? And where can I bring in the neutrality? And if I bring in the neutrality, what am I going to start to learn about myself that is counter to the programming that I've received?
mm.
And there's just this magic that begins to open up in the mental space. And we also talk about neurodivergency and ADHD and autism and all of these amazing things that are impacting our mental body that are creating different frequency fields where we can access what I call the esoteric internet, where we can get those downloads and we can kind of get into the no thinking mind or the more calm states of the mental body and activate more connection to our higher self and source. And so that's kind of the high level of how we work with the mental body.
I really appreciate that also. And what's also happening is, well, there's just so much. And again, to get into the different ways in which we alchemize and work with the mind and trigger stress and can learn not only to neutralize that, but use that energy that would otherwise be depleting and have it take an upswing to really serve into taking action
Mm.
in a very proactive and possibly fun and joyful way. Again, if we know how to harness that energy and be in relationship and invite it into a new level of harmonization, it's incredible what comes through there. And there's also the capacity with that mental body to get into an awareness of how we connect more clearly with the guidance that's coming in for us with spirits and again into those theta states that become available when we learn how to navigate the chemistry of the mental body. So this is amazing. All right, we go also now to the emotional body, feminine, obviously, since it's number three.
Yeah, my favorite. This is the one that is my favorite, but most people have the most resistance to
Okay.
oftentimes. And the way that I work with the emotional body is bringing through the understanding that, gosh, I'm getting full body chills because this is a very powerful statement that I like to make a lot, which is when we can drop into our full emotional expression and we can alchemize that and we can be with those emotions, it activates something inside of us that is probably the most powerful connection that we will ever have to ourself and to spirit. I believe that the emotional body and our empathy and everything that comes with it is our gateway to our intuition. It's our gateway to spirit. It is a place of immense, immense personal power that we are so, so, so rarely harnessing. And as a consciousness, our emotional body lives in our sacral chakra. And what I like to say is everything wants a piece of our sacral chakra. all the marketing in the world, all of the people in our lives. If you're a sensitive being, most people in their empathy are not owning their sacral chakra. And so a lot of their emotional turmoil is actually them feeling and tapping into and being the transmuter of the emotions of people around them. So it really looks like an empowerment in that sacral chakra when we're working with the emotional body. And what I also witness is that when we activate this, because it's a feminine energy, it's very magnetic. And so when we start to harness the power of the emotional body, that's when we start to get the real juiciness in our creation cycles and our
Mm.
manifestation. And we start to magnetize things into our life where we can have a greater degree of flow. I often say that the sacral chakra is like a river, and the root and the solar plexus are the river banks. And so we want it to be flowing, right? We want that emotional body to be clear and flowing. And we want to continue to be in our empathy and be able to tap into the emotions of the things that are happening in our lives and those around us. We don't want to shut it down and we don't want to compartmentalize it. We want that flow to be there. It's one of my favorite etheric bodies to teach about.
Well, and I appreciate the way that you hold the container for the healing of the emotional body because y'all have done work around the emotional body, whether you know it or not, and we've gone through and there's healing that's taken place. What I find sometimes though, that sometimes the healing go up to a place where it feels uncomfortable just enough. And we get to a layer that like it feels like we released something and we have, but there's this depth, like we just got to the beginning of it and we get comfortable again, kind of in the wobble because at least it's not as bad as it used to be. And so we kind of hover on there. And this is where some of the putting the cover on those things that we don't want to face, we learn to navigate those things in a much more intelligent way, not serving us in our highest, but intelligent that we know how to step around it. And so, really going deep into healing the emotional body, going into layers so we can get into the core and committing to that, that's where this activation really takes place. That's again where that action taking ability from healing the emotional body and that magnetism, it really has an opportunity to blossom. And so the space that I feel you holding for it, it's just, I'll say you're kind of like a mama bear. It's like, no, we're going deep because I know the liberation that's possible there. It's, I just know it can benefit so many people. I know it benefited me and when I had my session. And again, just the strength and awareness in the way that you hold it and guide people through, it's a game changer for so many people. And I know that's been the case for a lot of the clients that you worked with.
Yeah, it's a pleasure and an honor to be able to hold space for people's deepest and rawest emotions. And I have had the honor over the years of having people that say, I never cry, sit
Mm.
down and in my initial scan of their energy field or the initial teaching in a workshop, there's a part of them that is seen that nobody else ever sees. And it's that beautiful, vulnerable, emotional part. And when I bring love in for that and they're seen in that way, it kind of unlocks a key inside of them that says, oh, maybe I can hold space for this too.
Mm.
And that's, I just believe if we all were able to tap into the full emotional expression, it's not all just the hard stuff. It also affects our ability to experience complete bliss and joy and those higher ranges of emotions. In my biggest emotional moments where I've been raw and vulnerable in that in front of others, in front of groups of hundreds of people in a workshop, for example, is when I can feel spirit most strongly moving through me and activating me in my passion and my work in the world. And I wish I could just bottle that up. I guess I kind of do in my way, bottle it up and try to hand that frequency out. But the person has to be willing to activate into that and experience the power of it. And so that's what I try to do with my teachings.
Amazing. Well, let's go into the last body, the energetic body, excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is kind of the part that brings everything together. And so I've always taught the 12 chakra system. So in 2018, I went to Mount Shasta and my healing modality, 12 dimensional healing, came in. And that was an activation of my 12 chakra system. So in the energetic body, I go through and make sure that that's open and clear in the teachings that I bring in. And I talk about all 12 chakras, especially the ones that are beyond the body, because we have the Earth Star chakra beneath the feet, and then 10, 11, and 12 above the head. And then about 3 weeks ago, I had an experience where I was taken all the way up to 18D. So I'm working on bringing that in now. My latest course is bringing some of that stuff in, and it's an expansion, but that 12th dimensional layer is what I teach about first, so that you can kind of get into the understanding of unity consciousness. Because when we get up to 12D, that's where we start to bring in the concept and the energy of unity consciousness. And so in the energy body, the teachings that come in are kind of bringing all the layers together and balancing the masculine and the feminine energy in the field, so that you can kind of be in that still point space where there's a unity between those two halves. And that creates opportunities for all kinds of things in our life, but especially, and one of the ones that people come to me often for, is the idea of sacred union and partnership, right? And being deeper in relationship. And so as we start to bring all the bodies together and the energy field gets activated into that 12th dimension, we start to open up to the possibility of what would it look like to be in relationships in a more unified way, not only with myself as a being, but with the natural world, with source, with my guides, and with the people around me. And that's kind of really what I'm after of activating for people, because I see that that is the frequency that changes the world. That when we come into a state of authentic expression and wholeness inside, and we're in a place of empowerment in that, we can walk through the world in a lot more neutrality, and we can deal with the triggers that come up and the different power dynamics that we find in the human collective. And we can shine our light, and we can be in our authentic expression and bring that forward as our medicine to the world. And so in the energetic body, it's really kind of bringing all of that together and just making sure that they're aware of all of the chakras, that they're all clean and clear, and that they have a practice for keeping that the case. Because oftentimes there's a lot of bleeding between energy centers, a lot of overlap of things moving between the channels, and maybe we don't have good boundaries because of it. Maybe we have some rips or tears in our energy field. So we just kind of go in and shore everything up and get it nice and tidy, and then teach them how to do that on a regular basis, because that's our superpower as well, of being able to hold our frequency. If we go out into the world and we're already carrying a whole bunch of density in our frequency field and our energy field, we're going to be a magnet for more density. And I think that's when we get things like anxiety, and we get all kinds of disease processes that can take hold down into the physical body. So on that lightest, least dense layer at the energetic level, if we can catch it there and we can have an energetic hygiene practice, it supports all of the other bodies in staying healthy and clear and open.
Beautiful. What's one thing that you could recommend for us to do? It's we feel that we're pretty balanced. We do the good job with the hygiene, but something just like permeates the field for whatever reason, and we get wobbled off. What's one practice that can help us bring in a little more stability in the energetic body to help ease the transition as we land further into that higher dimensional aspect that we get to hold?
Well, the one that's coming up, interestingly, this is what came in as soon as you asked the question, is working on judgment to support our boundaries. So oftentimes when people come to me, and this is how I started out too, they're working on being in a defensive posture in their energy field, because they have maybe been a really sensitive empath, and they've taken on the energy and they're kind of fed up with it. And so they're putting shields up, and they're doing all the protection and wearing the bracelets and doing all the things, which is a heck of a lot of work. And so what I want to help them to get to is a place of, number one, being empowered in their expression, and then noticing when they're getting into a place of judgment. Because what I see when we get into a place of judgment, and we all do it, is that when we drop into it pretty deeply and we're judging an external being outside of ourselves, or an experience outside of ourselves, is that's when our energy field starts to wobble, and we start to become a little bit more receptive or open to those energies coming in. And that's also by design, because the moment that we're in that space of judgment, we're just seeing that there's something outside of us that's ready to be healed inside inside of us. And so if we can kind of start to get a little bit more conscious of that and not judge ourselves for judging, we don't want to do that, but just be more conscious of when we're getting into that space and say, okay, well, what's being mirrored to me in this person? What's activating for me? What's trauma is triggered? Either I'm afraid of being them or I am them. And as we work through that, we can then move through the trigger and do the healing. And then our boundary kind of comes back up and our energy field kind of activates back into its fullness again. So that's probably my best teaching, especially because we have an immense amount of polarity in the field. I mean, the amount of polarity that we are dealing with is at an all-time high because we're kind of reaching that fever pitch where we're getting so far apart in our timelines before we start to come together again in more unity. And so when we're working on being in that place of non-judgment and really realizing when we're in judgment, we can hold those boundaries a lot better.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And just to add a perspective of that is that I've become more aware when it seems like that field in me has collapsed a bit to be in one of those experiences that I am realizing, like you said, that there's something that I'm picking up there that's coming back into wholeness. I actually have an appreciation for those moments rather than I did something wrong. I got to shame myself. I wasn't holding my field correctly. It's like, no, I really feel that we get to such a vibrational stage that again we start realizing the gifts in it rather than needing to put the protection and shaming and guilting ourselves for not being able to hold a high level of perfection, which is not what we're here to do.
Yeah, we need the contrast, right?
Mhm.
I mean, that's part of the human experience. And so, again, I'm back to validation, right? We're validating the experience that we're having. And like you said, not going into a place of judgment, we're coming into a place of acceptance of this is where I'm at. And, that frequency of surrender, everybody's like, well, how do I surrender? I'm like, well, I can't teach you how to surrender, but I can tell you kind of what it sounds like for me, which is I guess if this never changes, I'm going to be okay because I am already doing it.
Beautiful,
And
beautiful. I
when
love
I get to that place of surrender, there's normally within not very long after that, when I fully surrender, that the energy begins to shift and the download comes in and the awareness comes in of what I'm really working on. And then
that.
I can work through it, right? Then I'm the energetic detective and I can work through whatever's going on.
Right. And you're teaching people how to be the energetic detectives in their own way through these modules, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
So, y'all, the four etheric bodies, two feminine, two masculine. These are part of the modules in the special offer. So I just thought let's just have a conversation about all of it as part of our discussion. And I am going to get into Q&A, y'all, because a lot of y'all have your hands up. There's some questions coming in the chat box. But we're going to finish the special offer because just covering that is $97. But there's more to the package, y'all, beyond going through this. So these modules that we go through each of the etheric bodies, these are pre-recorded, right?
Yep. Hmm.
And then there's the next item is a live it's a live workshop. It's a
Yep. A live
I want to
healing.
call it, thank you, a live, excuse me, etheric bodies group healing. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I thought it would be nice to offer a container for the people from the show who are maybe going through the class and also give them a little impetus to get done by a certain time in the modules so that they could come together in a healing. Because sometimes I need a little nudge to actually take the things that I sign up for. And so we're going to go through an active healing, and I'll answer questions on the four etheric bodies. So everything that's covered in the class, they can bring their questions, and I'm going to do an actual activation and healing for the group as well.
Ooh, amazing. Cool. So that's also included in the package. And
Mhm.
then there's a sacred self-care ebook and
Mhm.
inner child healing toolkit. More about that, please.
Yes. So I have a process that I came up with when I was going through my chronic illness and trying to get into a place of connecting with my body more. And I put that into an ebook. So there's a cellular reset activation. It's one of my most favorite activations that I've ever created. And
Mm.
it's a literally what it sounds like, resetting from the cellular level out. And then it's also a connection to a self-care practice. So I give kind of some guided activities that you can go through to kind of get into maybe a 2 hour process of working with your being and receiving. So that's included. And then I am a big proponent of inner child work. I think we can all use it. So I have a inner child healing circle recorded and some journal prompts and and some activations just for working with the inner child, because that's kind of the foundation of some of the etheric body work as well.
Amazing. Y'all, all this is $97, and I highly recommend uh, working with Katie because I had an amazing experience and really facilitation that really helped me as I transcended some of the energies of 2024 and before. But it was what I was ready for. And the space that she held really just buoyed me in what was coming through other processes as well in such a beautiful way. So again, I highly recommend the special offer. Thank you for putting this together for us, Katie. I'm excited for those of y'all who are going to participate and join the live call also. And again, take advantage of it. $97. There's a 2 payment option. There's always a 30-day money back guarantee to make it a no-brainer for you guys to really dive in. And I know how it's benefited me. So as the experiencer who then gets to share, it's from my heart to yours and from the generosity of Katie and her service work to all of us. And Katie, are you open to start taking some live Q&A?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Layla, welcome to the call. Let me get you to unmute your microphone. And what is your question for Katie?
Thank you. I'm curious what you would offer about an upper center right tooth that's turned brown.
Mm. So within the dental space, there's obviously a connect point to an organ. I'm sure you've probably looked all of that up. If you haven't, I would suggest that you do. But I'm curious how long this has been going on, Layla.
A few years now.
And what I'm kind of picking up on with you is that there was an additional trauma that happened a few years ago around the same time when this activated. Are you aware of what that might be?
The pandemic?
Yeah, so there's an empowerment journey here with your health of your connection to your body and your willingness to drop into taking care of it and maybe working with a traditional system in a non-traditional way. So I don't know what polarity you're working with in terms of dealing with the medical system or kind of navigating that. But what I often find is there's sometimes a story when we're navigating something that's chronic or maybe needs to be removed or taken out of the body, where we believe that we've failed if we have to remove something. And so if it comes down to that's the decision that you make to deal with this particular affliction in the mouth, then the guides would encourage you to look at your neutrality or your ability to be neutral, to say that even if I have to do something to remove something from the physical body, if that's not necessarily in alignment with me, it's gotten to the point where it's now quarantined so much energy that the actual removal of it can bring me back into health. And I am a multidimensional being and I can recreate that in light if I need to. So that's what's coming through for you.
Mm.
All right, Layla, there you go. Come back and
Thank
listen
you.
to the replay also and kind of take it in sips. And blessings to you. Yeah. All right, wonderful. Let's continue now. Deborah, welcome to the call.
Thank you so much, John and Katie. Oh, that was so good, Katie, all of what you shared. And lots of questions popping up, and I'm trying to say, okay, which one do I ask? I have done so, what I thought was so much deep inner child healing trauma from my past that just came up, in the last 20 years of my life, or it was suppressed till then. Whew. Yeah, it's sort of, I think you had me on when you were talking about the root chakra, because I've been feeling that a lot lately. That obviously extreme sexual abuse. But I've felt like I've always dealt more with my sacral than my root, and kind of just in recently, it's sort of like, oh wow, how could I have missed my root? But I think it's one of those things that you were saying, when it's so deep, it's been avoided because we've done not that anything was easy, but done the pre-work. I guess things come up when it's time. John, you say that lots. Yeah, and other things like I cried lots as a child. My trauma started at a very early age. And now I can hardly cry at all. I mean, I can sometimes when I'm talking on John's show, it comes up a little bit. But I would just love to. I mean, I know that tears are so healing. I would love to be able to unpack that. And then the thing that you said about shame, because I'm going through that, and I've been doing so much work, even intensified in the last couple of months, thanks to John, John's show, and all of his beautiful people that he gets in. And I think, hey, I don't, I probably I was shamed so much as a child, the narcissism and all of that, that I really didn't think I had that much, but boy, you sure made me zero in on that one as well. So I don't really know. I mean, pick one of those.
And really, what's the general questions like?
The general question is like, OMG, it feels like listening to you. I have so much more, and also probably so much more work with my inner child, you know. So yeah, like, yeah, it's just the I guess I'm just speaking out my shock factor.
Yeah, let's let Katie address that because there's a lot streaming through. And my feeling is before Katie begins is that Deborah, you're not as far as you think you might, or it's not as far away as you might think that it is. I feel that you're probably closer than you might believe. But let's see what Katie's bringing through for you.
Oh, well, John, thank you. I thought you were going to tell me the opposite.
No, that's why I corrected myself.
John,
Yes.
every time you've ever shared anything with me, it's been like so rich. Like I told you, joked with you that you always add the icing.
Beautiful.
But I have healed. Thank you so much.
There's more. Katie, what are you getting? Yeah.
Yeah, Deborah, I feel like
you.
what John said is that you're really close, and it's interesting because we have a lot of really ripe energy in March for major karmic closure. I was telling John this before we got on, that I'm working with people that are what I would call adept spiritual learners and seekers right now that are at the end of a multi-lifetime, maybe hundreds of lifetime cycles with narcissistic abuse and abuse patterns. And what I'm seeing is there's like that final domino that is going to kind of fall over for some of you all this month. And it's going to really happen through the frequency of love and acceptance of bringing those parts that you've worked with. Because what I often find when I start getting into people's fields is they've done all of this work and it's literally sitting here outside of their body waiting to land. And they've maybe brought it to the heart or the throat. But what I'm seeing, Deborah, is you're actually working on going beyond what I would call the cervical portal, which is there right between the sacral and the root chakra, and dropping that inner child healing that you've been doing and the love for that inner child all the way down in the root. So you can actually embody the frequency of full wholeness with your inner child. And that starts by, really saying, okay, I see that I thought that I had embraced you fully, but maybe I have a little bit more work to do. And I love you unconditionally and I'm bringing you forward. And I am here to be your safe place, right? I'm here and I'm going to take good care of my body, which is your vessel as well. And I'm going to welcome you down into this root chakra so that I can see the shift in my physical reality and see the fruits of all of the hard work that I've done. So I think, John is right with you're kind of got that one domino that needs to fall over. So it feels more like integration work to me, like all of the parts coming together. So I think it's in the class that I taught in the free offer attached to the package that I kind of have you all do a round table exercise with all of your inner child parts. And so that roundtable exercise of bringing them all together and having a bit of a kumbaya meeting with them might be a really beneficial exercise for you.
That's good. I probably have done some similar for quite a few years, but
I would invite you to come into everything that you're attracted to now with everything would begin in mind, right?
Yeah.
It's me too. I go into things now. It's like I've done so much, You can talk to me about modality and I can did that, but I'm going into different invitations and different energies with I'm so curious. I don't know. I wonder where I'll learn. It's like, what's the wisdom? I'm attracted to this particular person or this modality or this opportunity. And I want to listen to that, not from a place of where I've already learned and I'm going to bring my expertise to add, but total beginner mind. And I'll have to share with all of y'all though. It's y'all have done so much of y'all's work in different ways. Even if you think that you're new to this, the navigation of the karmic cycles and what we're reconciling and the energies, that there is an aspect of you that's mastered some of these energies. And the next initiation for the master is to really release what they believe they know, because there's something else that's evolving that's beyond their comprehension. And so I would recommend that you really honor the mastery in you and honor what the master is ready to grow into by releasing and being open, again, like the child, to see what else can be experienced. So thank you for bringing this on, Deborah. It's really quite beautiful.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
John. And thank you, Katie. It's so poignant, everything that you shared. And awakening. You both were so encouraging. I really love you both.
Blessings to you, Deborah. And thank you for bringing up what was coming through, because I really think that helped a lot of people here. A lot of us, not just people in the audience, but me as well. All right, let's continue now. Or Katie, are you guided to something else right now, or can I keep going with
Yeah, let's keep going. I'm liking
let's
this.
keep going. Suzanne, welcome to the call. Find that unmute button, Suzanne.
Okay, it finally let me. Oh, John, you are so amazing. I've met Sarah London through you and did the channeling course. I do animal communication. I teach it. And it was literally by you popped up so Taras, the offer was there. And it's like you said, you just kind of got to do it. We're so divinely guided. And thank you both for everything. I have struggled since I'm 7. Before that, I was basically indestructible on any cold. I would never get anything. I run out in the cold and the wet feet, and nothing bothered me. And then since I'm 7, it's basically there's any bug anywhere. I think I only survived COVID because I was like so secluded, like life. And also my business, like people give me good feedback, but it's just not like, I feel like I'm blocking. One is the protection, or you said not to feel about protection but more about clearing, and I do clearing. And I also teach energy hygiene because I realize that's what we do. We need to do it all the time. We wash our hands, we wash our clothes, but we seem to forget about our energetic bodies. And so it's like about that. And then what am I missing about making the business successful and being able to share what I have? I work with animals, and through that, I bring people into their power, which then the animals trust more, and the people can trust the animals more. And it's it's wonderful, and I just want to share it more.
Yeah. So what I'm going to say might be something that you already know on an energetic body level, but I'm going to try to connect a dot for you. So we have in my chakra system, our eighth chakra is the high heart chakra. It's the thymus chakra. And my guides call it the golden vessel. And this is the energy center that we connect with animals through. So they have that same energy center, and it's actually where we bond with animals and humans here, right at the thymus. And in our ability to be in our immunity, we need to think about it as I'm unity. And so oftentimes, if this particular energy center is something where we're either, in your case, you're using this a lot in your work. And what I'm seeing is that you're holding a lot of debris in this energy center all the time because you're working with it to connect with the animals in the way that you're working. And so if you start to bring some more attention to this kind of transitional chakra between the heart and the throat, which there's also a breastplate for you here that looks like an armor from another lifetime that you might want to look at and see why you're armoring up a little bit there. But if
Yeah,
you
I've
work,
rough
yeah.
upbringing.
Yeah, so if you can work on clearing some of that, you can start to get in better resonance in this energy center, and then start to think about beaming out energy from it rather than it being a sponge where you're taking in. Because there's a little bit of like a desperation of wanting to connect with these animals so much and connect with the humans to help them with their animals, that there's a little bit of an energy of like, I'll take whatever I can get. And that's actually impacting your business as well. So I think if you work with this energy center in a different way, with maybe some of that awareness in mind, it can actually shift all of the different parts of your life that you just mentioned that are feeling a little out of balance.
Do you think it could be that I'm taking it on to purify it, transmute it?
Yeah, I think it's also like just a desire for connection. So I would also look in your root and your sacral for any programs from your childhood or even present time around lack of connection, and see where maybe you are using your business to fulfill that connection energy, and see if we can bolster that connection in other parts of your life so the propensity to take that energy on and that thymus can go down.
Oh, this resonates so much. And the way I work with my inner child, I have the fairy tales, the little girl and her dragon. And so in that, I can make it, I don't have to work with the inner child. I play and we fly around. And oh my God, you're making me cry. The good cry that is like so happy and grateful. It's just my life. I see how it's gotten so magical. And you showing up on my email and me kind of like, I need to do this. And John calling on me. Thank you, John.
Bruce, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Oh my God, I wish you both the best and everybody that's listening as well. And I think we're very close to just getting it.
Beautiful, Suzanne. Thank you. Yo, is Katie amazing or what? Oh my God, this is so cool. Just
Awesome.
spot on going into it. Something I want to offer to you, Suzanne, and to all of us. You too, Katie, to all of us. The root of your capacity to tune in the ways that you're tuning in really comes from this beautiful intentionality and power of the love that you have. And really, y'all, that's the gateway. That's the gateway to everything. And please, well, I'm just going to remind you. I want to implore you, but I'll remind you. Claim the intention of your love that you have for others. See it not lacking in any way because something or someone isn't reflecting it back to you. But hold it in steady in that field of self-respect. And that's an initiation, y'all. It's a holding the clarity of your love with that pillar, that anchor of I know who I am. I know what my intentions are. And nothing has the authority to wobble the truth of the purity of that light. And we're human, we'll wobble, but we can keep remembering to come back to us because at the deepest level, at the core of your being, you know that that is absolutely 100% true. So wherever we feel not enough as, or we're not received, or we're being pulled in whatever, just the authority of your love and how it's serving those that you choose to love, of that light and how you're amplifying it, I would remind you not to question its capacity to really be a catalyst for not only your own awakening, but for the awakening of those who you are choosing to serve with it, which the truth is everybody who you happen to touch. But we're getting there little by little. Suzanne, thank you so much for coming on. So beautiful. All right, let's continue. God, I'm so amplified with today's conversation. Trish, welcome to the call.
Thank you. full disclosure, I know Katie. I've worked with Katie. She's brilliant. Thank you, John. I appreciate your show too.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I've been on a 3-year journey with cancer now, and I've just wrapped up 4 rounds of chemotherapy. I'm going for CT scans tomorrow to see what it's doing. Is it working? Where am I? So, Katie, I'm just wondering, whatever you can tap into that would be helpful for me to know now. I'm open to any of it. That just whatever you're aware of.
Hi, Trish. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Mm. So, Trish, we've talked about this, that the parts of you that are coming home in this process, and what a beautifully interesting way your body has chosen to call your soul back home to get more embodied and more in connection with your physical vessel. And so what I would say is that this process that you've moved through, I can see how much more neutrality you're bringing in navigating with the medical system and navigating with staying in your power in these choices, and how you've made empowered choices within a system that can be very disempowering. And I would ask you if there are any parts that are ready to come home into that lower chakra system, into the sacral and the root, that are ready to exist in that empowerment through a bit more love. And you might already be aware of these parts that you're working on. You're also closing out a karmic cycle with the masculine in this, which I know you know. And so the systems that you're working with and the masculine energy that you've encountered, what I see is that you're kind of stepping into a new beginning of being in your divine masculine in a different way. And so I would also say, if there's any place where you're still feeling like there is a masculine outside of you that can do it better than you, or knows more than you, or needs to support you because you can't support yourself in some way, that would be time to call that energy back home and reground it into your experience and say, I'm ready to claim that even though I'm in a female body in this lifetime, I am very much able to hold my divine masculine, and I am able to be in relationship with my body in a way that is very empowered and loving.
Yeah, it's been this chemotherapy cycles. I mean, it's been like mind blowing how much has been stripped away in the process. I feel like, the identity is leaving, the old programs are leaving. I mean, in 4 short cycles, I just feel like I've probably gone through, centuries worth of bullshit. And I feel like I'm ready to jump into a new timeline, honestly.
And this is the month for it, Trish. So, just be willing to receive support in closing out any other karmic cycles that you're working. I specifically here with the masculine. So I think that's where your work is right now. And
Totally.
Beautiful.
Pretty much.
thank you.
Trish, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So you've talked about what's leaving. Can you tell me what's coming in?
Love, what coming over and over and over is love is the answer to every question and the solution to every problem. And that it's just embodying and fully expressing the love that we all are in our own unique version of it. My I am presence coming fully embodied and expressing in a new way. And yeah.
Because I find it fascinating energetically, and then this is perhaps part of the emotional body. When we talk about the things that are leaving, it's got an energetic component and we can feel and it feels good, but we talked about the things that we gain or that are amplifying in energy in that way. It's got like a whole different, like a resonance of vitality. It's like, ooh, hold on a second, there's something there. So to feel into the difference, and it's one thing to claim, and it's beautiful to acknowledge that which is finishing its cycle.
Yeah.
And it's also another thing to get into the emotional excitement and the mental acuity that comes alive when we're also claiming that which we're ready to receive because we're having that direct experience as well. And
yeah,
really
it's been the craziest paradox I've ever experienced in my life, of where the week of treatment is like the most awful feeling experience ever. But when I come out of it, all the awareness that's popping in, all of this new information, and being able to connect the dots and getting the downloads. It's like I'm so excited about what I'm doing that it's this huge paradox that's just mind-blowing. And of course, we're in such potent times now that anything is possible. I mean, if you look in my medical records, I'm a hot mess, but I just know something else is possible and it's coming, you know?
So
It's,
beautiful, Trish.
yeah.
Blessings on your journey. Thank you for sharing. And
yeah, thank you.
And I see your courage and what you're navigating. So I just am bowing to you and in awareness. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're all doing our thing and it's so beautiful. It takes all of us.
And I want you to just hold on to, I'm acknowledging your courage, just yours. I'm just directing this at you specifically. Thank you, love.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, let's continue. Y'all, before we continue, the special offer, the etheric bodies, the live workshop to go in and the way that Kaite navigates it. And y'all are getting a good sense of the way she holds the field. It's just like, it is unshakable, but so accessible, so relatable as well, which I just absolutely love. So y'all take advantage of the special offer. It's only $97. You get the toolkit, you got the bonuses in there, the 4 etheric bodies, the live healing course, which takes place in April. I'll look at the dates here in a second, but you can see it on the special offer page as well. $97, 2-payment option, 30-day money back guaranteed. The link's in the chat box. You can find the link on the special offer button if you're watching live, and you can always find it in our marketplace, beyondtheordinaryshow.com/marketplace. All right, let's continue. Wendy, welcome to the call.
Yeah, so excited to be here. My first time on the, coming forward with a question. So, awesome. Kaite, the deal is, I've always been a very healthy person, minor stuff, very healthy, very active. I'm almost 73. I got this severe parasite infection. I'm going into my 3rd year. It was a naturopath that I've worked with for 30 years. It diagnosed me, and she does a great job. I mean, she's helped me with everything. We couldn't get this beat. It became systemic. It's in my bloodstream, and it has just totally altered my lifestyle. I was very active. I would go out dancing several nights a week. I have been on my couch for the past 2 years. So my naturopath, kind of, we weren't going anywhere. So then I went to another healer who I went to before her. And, I've made a little progress. But this is 3 years. I went to a dermatologist. They told me I should go talk to a therapist.
Wendy, I want to honor your journey that you're on, because I know when there's something chronic going on, how debilitating that is and how difficult it is to stay in a place of positivity and to want to be in the body. There's a modality that I practice in my healing sessions called biomagnetic paratherapy that I highly recommend for clearing pathogens. You can look it up online. But it basically comes from the understanding that when we have a imbalance in our polarity in our body, then it becomes acidic, and then we have a tendency to hold on to those pathogens. But I want to speak about the emotional component and the energetic component of parasites for just a second, because parasites are about boundaries. Parasites are about places where we haven't honored ourselves and have come into a place of self-rejection or self-abandonment, and then taken on the abusive or parasitic energies of other people. And so sometimes, and I see similar things when I look at Lyme's disease and Epstein-Barr and chronic things that come up, that there's an emotional component behind it that we have to start to look at to say, why might there be some sort of rejection of the body? What's going on that might be creating an imbalance in that rejection energy? And so with parasites, and I will also say with fungal infections too, that there's this crossing over of I'm not able to hold my energetic frame and my boundaries. I don't feel safe holding my boundaries. So if you haven't done any work on looking at things that are boundary related, whether those are old traumas or even current things where maybe somebody might be testing your boundaries in present time, then that would be one place to look. And then of course, the pathogens that we hold in our body carry the toxic energies and the toxic emotions. So sometimes when we are trying so hard to clear them, it's because they're actually holding on to energy that we're not ready to look at. And so I would also say in the emotional body, perhaps there's something that's been compartmentalized or held for a really, really long time that you haven't felt safe to heal yet. And so these beings, because they are sentient beings to a degree, they have a consciousness, are trying to hold on to that energy for you. And so I would come back to this place of validation of saying, okay, I know that this thing is attacking me, and I don't want to keep going to battle with it because I feel like you've kind of been in battle with it for the last
Yes.
years and it's been kind of
Yeah.
desperate. And so I would start by saying, and I know this sounds weird, but coming into a place of love with that particular pathogen that is quarantining these energies that you're not ready to release, and start having a conversation with it and with your body from a place of validation and acceptance, because there's this battle that is keeping you in a state of polarity that is keeping those pathogens healthy. So those are the insights that are coming through right off for you.
I know you're right on about the battle, you know. And I've worked on the love piece, but it didn't bring quick enough results. So I went right back into battle.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised about the boundaries. I mean, I'm not perfect with boundaries, but compared to most people, I'm pretty good.
And what I'm sensing is it's probably something really old, Wendy. It may not even be from this lifetime. It could even be from childhood or from another lifetime where there was a serious, egregious boundary impact. And the other lifetime that you're showing me is one where you were living in a situation where you probably would have had a lot of pathogens that you were having to deal with. And you're also clearing the trauma from that lifetime of being in a place where you didn't have the sanitation that you needed. That's the lifetime that you're showing me right off the bat.
Okay. And so I forget what you mentioned that helped the technique.
Yeah, the biomagnetic paratherapy.
Yes.
It's very common in the UK and in Europe as well. And there's some practitioners in the United States are just starting to kind of come online. But yeah, looking at polarity in the body, because even in the teachings that I bring through in the course, we're looking at the polarity and starting to balance the polarity. I've been working with polarity for a long time. It's just kind of what I came in to do in this lifetime. And there's a body component to that as well that we need to bring into balance to start to kill off some of those pathogens. So maybe a slightly different approach in looking at the polarity piece that maybe you haven't taken on yet. I'm sorry you're going through that. I know that's really challenging.
Thank you.
Blessings to you, Wendy. Thank you for coming on. Come back and listen to the replay. There's a lot that Katie shared here, not just information, but energetically as well, that I feel that you'll attune to also and can be of benefit. And Wendy, you're illuminating for me. And again, we go through these places, and I want to reflect. Our brain is wired to keep us in our comfort zone so that it can preserve energy to protect our physical body so that we can be prepared to respond in different ways. And so as we go through through different healing components, and as Katie's bringing up healing the etheric bodies, we'll go to the place that is right on the edge, maybe for some of us, way over the edge of our comfort levels, but there's deeper chasms to go into sometimes, or a lot of times, actually. And the ascensionary energies, political climates, geopolitical climates, weather patterns, a lot of things that are going, oh my God, we have to go deep because we can't sustain.
Yeah.
And so a lot of us are being challenged into depths that we're not comfortable with. And I really believe that what Katie is teaching through these etheric bodies and the way that we can tune in and excavate and have relationship beyond that edge of the comfort zone is going to be of significant impact through these parts of us that are ready to transcend, that we haven't quite gotten to unlock that next phase, because again, our brain wants to keep us comfortable. It is wired for that in different ways. And y'all have been doing so much work, and I'm not saying that you haven't gone deep, but sometimes we can just like that little extra inch into that field of what's possible of consciousness can open up new worlds that will release things that we've been holding lifetimes, if not just this lifetime. So it's quite powerful. And again, that's why I'm highly recommending working with Kaite, going through the live course, diving into the special offer, and anything else that Kaite may be offering. Again, Jets, I bring speakers on not just so we can sell special offer packages, which helps supports the show in so many different ways in all of our ascension, but also because I want you to go deeper with everybody that I bring on here, because there's a lot of valuable work that we're sharing with one another. So
you do great work, John. I appreciate it.
Wendy. Thank you. And blessings to you. Thank you so much for sharing.
And thank you for your feedback. Thanks.
Absolutely. Chris popped in the link for the special offer. Again, it's in the chat box, beyondtheordinaryshow.com/marketplace in the YouTube page. It's in the comments section as well. Kaite, we're going to have you back. We're just gonna have to have you back. If you'll have us, we have to have you back. And of course, we're going to run the replay all week long, which is, I want you all to come in because there's a lot that Kaite was sharing on here that's really impactful. And again, I can feel this energy and this openness that's occurring in this dynamic with us. And y'all on the replays also, you're affecting this group consciousness as well. So thank you for what you're bringing in. Kaite, I would love it if you can share any insights that may come to you right now on how we can navigate this month of March and what's coming in through spring and even early summer, so that everybody can really tune into and harness the truth, that aliveness in them that's really guiding them to awaken new versions of their own healing and self-awareness.
Sure. Yeah, there are two things that the guides were wanting me to share at the end. One is this notion that gratitude is an integrative frequency. That when we can step into gratitude for an experience that has been challenging and the lessons that have come, right? Or gratitude for an amazing experience, both of those polarities, if you will, of gratitude equal integration. And there's a difference between head integration of gratitude and heart integration of gratitude. When you get to the other side of a difficult experience, or even just to the edge of the other side of it, and you can say, oh my gosh, I am so grateful that I learned all of these things. And I am also willing to let go of the pain that they caused. And I don't feel like I need to hold that pain in order to keep myself safe. I'm just going to exist in this state of gratitude because I'm ready to move forward. That's how we close out karmic cycles, because it's that energy of gratitude and integration that actually activates the ending, the completion. We are in a 9-year. This is a completion year, but it is also a new beginning that comes on the heel of those endings. So we do not need to be in an ending all year. What I see in March is that we are bringing in the essence of this completion energy in a really big way. We've got Venus retrograde, we've got Mercury retrograde, and we've got 2 eclipses. This is the month, my friends. This is the month to say, okay, I'm closing the door on something and I'm activating into excitement and open to however it might easily flow to me without me even understanding, because I'm now creating in a completely different dimensional frequency, one that is higher than I've ever been in before, and I don't know what's possible. And so staying in that state of curiosity as those endings complete, allowing ourselves to grieve whatever comes up, feeling the totality of that, and then stepping into the excitement and the curiosity of what might be possible on the other side.
Beautiful. Y'all, this is so good. Emily, you wrote, yes, the offer will be up probably until the end of April, when we end the season. The live class, let me go to the page. Maybe you know it off the top of your head, Kaite.
April 2nd, I believe, at 7 p.m. Eastern. Yeah.
April 2nd, 7 p.m. Eastern, but I'm sure it'll be recorded. So if you miss it, you'll be able to catch the replays. But if you happen to sign up after April 2nd, you'll get that as a recorded group healing, which will be powerful as well. But again, if you want to make it live, sign up for the special offer before April 2nd so that you can participate in that as well. Y'all, everybody that raised their hand that I didn't call on, my blessings to you. My apologies. I wanted to get to everybody. We're at the top of the hour for the show. Yeah, just sending so much love and compassion and gratitude for the wisdom and the mastery that each and every one of you hold in your individual experiences. And it's together that we're healing each other. And so thank you for your journey, your dedication and your devotion to amplify that love and stand for that love within you. And it's with tremendous gratitude of who you be that I wish you a wonderful evening, and I hope to see you on the next call. And Kaite, thank you. You're a rock star. I love the field that you're holding and the stability in which you hold it in. And thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody. It was so wonderful to be here.
All right. Bye, everybody. Love you guys.